He gets mad.
Right, we're going to actually move on because we're talking about Kurt Angle. We're actually going to be talking about the nature of 5-star matches as popularised by Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. And Kurt Angle never had a 5-star match. That is the thing that has been known since Kurt Angle retired. But it's really picked up steam recently as to denigrate, if you like that word. I know you're not Dutch, but I'm using the Dutch thing. The reputation or the rating skills of Dave Meltzer. So, let's talk about Bret and Shawn arguably being the best two wrestlers of the 1990s. Some would say one or both are in contention for the greatest wrestlers of all time. I'd always put Bret. But neither are in Dave Meltzer's exclusive list of wrestlers with 3 or more 5-star matches. Bret has had 2, one versus Owen at WrestleMania 10 and Austin at WrestleMania 13. And Shawn has had 2, Razor Ramon at WrestleMania 10 and The Undertaker versus The Undertaker at the first
American title match. I don't know if they did it in Philly. That was Andrade versus Johnny Gargano. Yeah,
it was a big multi-man match. So a lot of people have got 5-star matches Kurt Angle doesn't have. So because of the crashing of the Japanese wrestling market, there were only 7 5-star matches handed out in the decade of the 2000s. 6 5-star plus in the 2010s. And in the 2020s, there have already been 95 5-star or higher ranked matches in the 2020s. So in history, as of July 2024, New Japan Pro Wrestling has 97 5-star or better matches, All Japan 37, AEW 32, WWE just 19. The entire history of WWE and AEW not far from it. 19 times with All Japan winning. WCW received 7.
ECW one, and then what was the TNA one? Should be the 3-way dance between Daniels, AJ, and Joe. That's my guess.
Yeah, I think that was one of them. The ECW one was actually Juventud Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio Jr.
It was a good match. That was a very good match. I mean, we brought in Lucha Libre. They had Conan there at the time and a lot of other people coming through. I would do the opposite. I think what we're showing is the matches from the past had more of a 5-star kind of like, viewpoint of what they drew and everything like that. I don't know. Cody and Roman, I think that's something that should be considered for the money it drew, the quality of the match, the storyline, the people that got over it in that orbit of the storyline. I don't think he got much better than that in modern history, but he's entitled to his opinion with that. But
there's a number of huge names and wonderful wrestlers who never received the coveted, though it's coveted for some, I guess, 5-star match. Kurt Angle, the most famous. The Rock, Jake Roberts, Hulk Hogan, Brock Lesnar, Kurt Hennig, Randy Savage, Dean Malenko, Rob Van Dam, Edge, Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, Mick Foley, Triple H. And here's some real comedy for you. Bryan Danielson never had a 5-star match until he joined AEW. And where in the 2 years he's been with AEW, he's been awarded 8 5-star matches. I mean, right there and then, if somebody says, well, there isn't some sort of bias, whether intentional or not, you're on dog food, pal. How can Bryan Danielson not ever have a 5-star match? And all of a sudden he goes to AEW, he's having one every month.
You wouldn't... I dare anybody to tell me that Bryan Danielson, at the time, Daniel Bryan, was ever as over as the Yes Movement.
The 5-star mold was actually broken by Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat at a house show in Landover, Maryland. That's how you spell it, because I want to say Maryland, but you say Maryland, don't you? In 1989, in among their 3-match Big Show series of the same year. So, I don't...
He's even wrong with that. You know why? If you want to pick the Meadowlands that they don't really have footage from '84, it's supposedly the best match they've ever had. Chi-Town Rumble, that pay-per-view with Flair and Steamboat, is a close second to the number 1. 52 minutes, I believe, 2 out of 3 falls, Clash of the Champions in Louisiana. That was the best match Steamboat and Flair ever had. And it's saying something, because all their matches are classics. But that was the best one.
You can argue the titles like Sergeant Slaughter and Don Knogle versus, I can't remember who it was it the Briscoes or someone else? I can't remember. But
yeah, or no, I think it was Hogan at WrestleMania 7, but it didn't draw. They were in a smaller arena. The tickets, the security threat. But the storyline for Hogan and Slaughter at the time, I still stand by that Slaughter is the greatest heel in wrestling history.
So, as I said before, Flair Steamboat at this house show in Landover, Maryland in '89 was given 6 stars. And then that wouldn't happen again. I think there was a facetious one in one of the newsletters where Dave Meltzer gave something 600 and something stars because he loved the match so much, but it was obviously facetious in the joke. Then Okada versus Omega in New Japan, January 4th, 2017, was awarded 6 stars, and that then caused a wave of over 5 stars to be awarded over the coming years, with almost as many 5+ stars, awarded than 5s. I'm going to give you a tweet that Dave Meltzer arguing with a fan 9 hours ago, as I copied and pasted it into my format. This fella, Shursky, says, I mean, not really, though. A max score is no longer 5 stars. There.
This kind of discussion about this argument, this is, for lack of a better term, this is a classic case of narcissism, that you can never be wrong. And I didn't know he was a football fan, American football, to move the goalposts so much. It's fine, it is right, but you're arguing with people based on your own parameters that you created over decades, and you're changing them. That's the whole thing right there. You're just trying to kind of rehash or recreate or repackage the 5-star match gimmick to be 6, 7, and now infinity. I guess if he was funny, I don't even know Meltzer, and he might be funny, intentionally or unintentionally, he should say, I'm adjusting the stars for inflation. And everybody would laugh. It's easy as that. Or just let people have their opinion. That's the whole thing. Like, everybody who says, I need to give you the 5-star match. But that's all up to everybody else. And everybody deserves. The market will decide. Much like with this show. This show can go 15, 20 episodes. They can get bored. They get tired of hearing my voice. I'm sure people do, and then we'll just fade away. Or the market will decide that this show is not successful. The market over many decades has shown that there's a market to make this guy enough money to live comfortably in California for decades. The most expensive state in the United States. So, God bless him.
Here's the one thing, obviously you say, it's up to the person, up to the individual or individuals whether they put credence into Dave Meltzer or anybody else's opinions as far as what is a good match and what isn't. But the one thing that it could hurt, aside from like a booker like Tony Khan, who is booking 4 great matches, in his opinion...
Oh, it's absolutely right. And I think this is an excellent whiteboard segment for a future episode, maybe even as early as next week. I would love to explain the psychology of a wrestling card, of a wrestling show. There's psychology within the match, but each and every match is important. Even a popcorn match after intermission serves its purpose. The opening match serves a purpose. And really, in a lot of ways, these earlier matches or that popcorn match is meant to keep the people engaged, keep them interested, keep them warmed up, but not heat them up so much that they're exhausted for the main event. In other words, leaving out punches, leaving out violence, leaving out hardcore stuff, leaving out a lot of things to where you save it for the match that drew the ticket money, drew the crowds, drew the gate, and drew the pay-per-view buys.
You, Stevie. So, a 5-star match, you say you've got all the criteria, you've got the build, you've got the reaction, you've got the match quality itself, did it increase ticket sales, etc. But here's the thing. Some might say, and it's a very, very fair question, is that, well, that must mean that Titanic or Avatar is the greatest film of all time. Because if wrestling is art, and a lot of people say that pro wrestling is an art, films are a form of art, music, that kind of thing, but Avatar drew the most, adjusted for inflation. So therefore, Avatar must be the greatest film of all time, which, in my opinion, is nowhere close. So how do you... Or McDonald's has the best burgers because they sell the most. It's that kind of argument. So where do you fall on that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because you have 2 different viewpoints. Now, people within Hollywood or acting or, the people that take great pride in great acting will have a different list than, you're a moviegoer. Like, is roid rage a thing? I don't know. Maybe it just makes you more what you already are.
Scott Steiner. In his brother Rick Steiner's recent WWE documentary, said he has never failed a drugs test when he was confronted with the question of, have you ever done steroids? So, he, an interesting way of getting around the question, but it's true, he's never failed one. He reportedly, back in WCW, skipped shows when he knew there would be a drugs test. So, have you ever seen that meme with the black guy pointing to his head and sort of say, hey, you can never fail a drugs test if you don't take one?
I didn't see that particular meme. I know the guy who's just like, gotta think about it, or, or I got a great idea. This is where, I put a lot of, I guess, empathy and compassion and a lot of my takes and my perspective with a lot of things. But this is probably going to be the most neutral, maybe the most apathetic to questions. Have you ever done human growth hormone?
Yeah.
Which is incredibly expensive to test for. The NFL just started but they were avoiding it. I don't know if wrestling has ever done it. It's an incredibly, at least at the time I was researching it, it's an incredibly expensive test. And when you look at that kind of stuff, you can virtue signal and do whatever. But steroids and growth hormone are not street drugs like cocaine, like other things. Even marijuana is not classified as one of those kind of drugs anymore. Same, we talked about it last week in relation to pain pills and drinking. I would prefer people do that. Now, that's injury-based stuff that people are usually smoking or taking CBD, CBN. Steroids, in a lot of ways, too, are mainly used for recovery. And as you get older, obviously, TRT, testosterone replacement therapy.
Let me ask you this, do you consider bodybuilding a sport? I'm sure a lot of them do. And in that case, it is a performance-enhancing drug.
Well, in bodybuilding, the look and the muscle and whatever there is, and there's politics involved in judges that have their favorites no matter what. So even if you did it, you still might lose because the favorite or a guy or girl who's going to get the sponsorship with the major, wheat or supplement or whatever back in the day, that factors into a lot of the judges' score. Wrestling in Hollywood is aesthetics-based. Now, obviously, in both there's performance, either with stunts, physically performed, the fight scenes, long filming hours, long travel days in wrestling, along with long live TV, live pay-per-views. It's an incredibly taxing schedule. And that's more of what I think people start using it for healing their injuries, recovering faster, and of course, keeping their muscle as